Hey, I'm Jacob Cooperman, and you were watching the MMA Conspiracy Hour with Todd Atkins and Miguel Iturrate. Todd has been involved in covering combat sports since the 1990s, and Miguel has match-made over 200 different events amongst various promotions worldwide. Please subscribe and be on the lookout for future episodes. As for me, you can check me out at Gloves Up on YouTube and Coop TV with 3 O's on Instagram. Thank you guys, and enjoy the episode.
All right, so this is a long time coming. I don't know when the last time we did MMA Conspiracy Hour, myself and Miguel, but it's been a little bit. And always great to have him back, I must say that. He's been more busy lately. So just take
Thank
him,
you.
we take him when we can get him, you know. Fans, you have to be patient. Uh, sometimes,
Fan.
in a
I got
way,
a fan.
fans, in a way, I think sometimes it's good because you have to anticipate the Miguel presence, anticipation. So,
Thank you. I appreciate the build up. I
yeah. And
I appreciate that.
so
So
today we're going to discuss an interesting topic, one that pretty much everybody's been discussing, which is this UFC White House. And we're going to go back in time a little bit to discuss some things
rookie.
in the past. And we'll kind of kick around not happening versus happening, what it would look like, these kind of things. So, Miguel, I just kind of wanted to let you kind of give an intro to your thought on this topic.
And thank you for the nice build up, and thank you to anybody out there listening. Um, it- you know, it's funny. We do a little prep, Todd and I. We usually are on the same page and don't have any issues with catching each other up. So, um, but we did prep this time, and Todd said, I don't think this White House event's going to happen. And I was like, I was thinking the same thing. I don't know if I was going to commit to saying it, but hey, if Todd's in, I'm in too. Fuck it, it's not happening.
The
um,
last one you did was GFL, and you were right. So we'll see how this one turns out.
eh, the GFL is really sad. Just a train wreck. It reminds me of, I don't know if it was the 80s or the 90s. I was real young, but there was some guy who didn't have a single cent of money anywhere, and he almost bought the New York Islanders. You can go back and look at the scandal where a scammer put up 100 million, or said he could put up 100 million for the Islanders. Yeah, the GFL reminded me of that. It's not going to happen. Now, the issue and the reason I can't rule out the UFC White House event is because if it might be what it takes to energy. I think at this point, Dana runs like hot and cold. We had a lot of podcasts and a lot of people touching on the subject that he's a little bit disconnected at this point in many ways. So what motivates Dana, I think, is the important thing. He wanted to do a show at the Sphere, and that turned into, never again. Um,
I think he
and
was forced into it because it turned out the MGM had let Canelo have that date. So I think there
yeah,
was some
no,
storytelling by Dana about what truthfully happened there.
that's possible, but the he could have done back in the Meyerowitz days. They took a show from New York to Alabama overnight,
Right.
so this company could do anything they wanted. Um, but yeah. So that's what I think. If this is what recharges Dana's batteries, if this is what gets him going one more time to do the show with Trump, and I don't think he wants to be in politics, but he certainly likes attention. And you know, the country, to me, I'm lived there in almost 2 decades now. Um, but to me, looks enormously divided by depending on what news you see and things like that. And you know, I think we all know what side Dana and some of the people are. So yeah, him and Trump may come to a deal that they feel could piss off the left also, and I wouldn't even be surprised um, if that was even more of Dana's motivation than at this point, their matchmaking to me is it's a difficult job when you have a cookie cutter there and the whole thing. It's that to make exciting matches. A lot of the times they're not really exciting. But I don't think you need them for this show. I don't think you need. John Jones wants to do it. Conor McGregor wants to do it. You know, and Dana, I think, was on record already as saying that he wouldn't trust Jones on a White House event because he's too much of a liability with pulling out and being flaky. Well, if that doesn't apply to Conor McGregor, I mean, so who are your reliable guys that you're going to put on? You know, what's the big fight that you're going to do? If Dana wants to, or the matchmakers want to engage in matchmaking, there was a few stories about the flirting of bringing Khabib back. Could you possibly have a Russian champion fight in the White House? Seems kind of that might even be counterproductive for them and the image they're going to be trying to cast. But it would be an alternate idea to Jones and McGregor, who really at this point, you know, I think Dana's right. I think they can't be relied on.
Yeah, McGregor's image too isn't very good right now. I don't know if that would even be in fitting with. I mean, I know Trump probably doesn't care, but the White House image.
Yeah, no. I think he does. I think the problem there is that I think you know I don't think Connor's stupid. I think he's a drug addict and has problems, but I don't think he's stupid. I don't think he's educated. I think he's street smart, and I think that he one of the reasons that he's running into some of the other problems and stuff is he crossed over and tasted a completely different life of
Mhm.
and he relates to guys like Dana and even Trump on that level. If he's crazy enough to run for president in Ireland, like has been rumored, and he's mentioned it more than once, you know, then yeah, I think he might be crazy enough to come back for a fight at the White House. With Poirier retiring, who's it gonna be? That's an interesting question, you know. But we don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't see Conor McGregor come back. I don't even think he's worth talking about, but
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. He had another recent performance where, you know,
performance, yeah.
yeah, he's his chemical romance is on display. So, yeah, he's not in good shape, not in good shape. But, we'll see. You can't the thing is once you start taking Jones and McGregor off, it starts looking like on the roster, off the roster. I'm sorry, yeah, all of the foreigners, and then on top of that, Russians are really in almost every division dominating. So,
Plus, McGregor has an ego, and he would want to win his fight. Who are you going to fight on the roster that won't kick his butt at this point?
yeah, that's at this point, that's a who's the 170-pound champion.
Madalena. He's getting ready to fight Islam, so
So they're dropping Islam, or Islam's coming up in weight.
yeah, he moved up. Yeah, he's going to be Madalena's next fight.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. And then you could do uh Islam and McGregor next year.
If Islam wins, yeah, I mean that's possible. Islam would wipe the floor with McGregor, though, and I don't think McGregor would. I think he knows that.
Yeah,
I don't think he's that dumb, like you said.
I think money motivations. I don't know. I don't see him getting there. So that's the truth. We like to speculate, and I'm quite proud. if we have fans that watch this, but I'm actually quite proud of. There was a podcast with you, obviously, that I described what I would have done with McGregor instead of the Chandler fight, which was line him up to put him in with Leon Edwards. You could do a big fight in the UK. And if you need Aspinall and Jones on that card, negotiate that. And you've got almost a Wembley Stadium level card. And I think that that could have been a motivator for McGregor to go back and do a football stadium in England. Um, and the motivation of being a three division world champion, which would set him apart from everybody else except, you know, was Dan Henderson in a weight champion? I know he didn't make a UFC champion, but I know three weight classes. I don't know how often that's been done at a
It
high
hasn't
level.
been.
Yeah, so McGregor, that's how you could have motivated him instead of stupidly bringing a guy with predilections to partying to Vegas and filming an entire TV show um when he wasn't even in the drug pool actually, you know? So what are you thinking to do that instead of motivating him through other means and get to him, you know?
You know,
So
you just brought up another one. We're gonna go through a little bit of history here with Dana promising us things he didn't deliver, and that was another one. You just mentioned that now.
which one?
McGregor versus Chandler. Didn't happen.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
They
Even
did a
after all
whole
the build
TV
up and
show
stuff.
only to not have it happen.
And he said maybe in November, and then, November came and went, and McGregor broke his toe, and blah 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 blah. Yeah, so yeah, it's and then McGregor really, you know, when I think it was was it Rafael dos Anjos who broke his toe? Similar,
Hmm.
he wasn't, seen partying or doing social media stuff or social stuff. Where he's kind of, in the news periodically going to fights and appearing very high, Um, Dos Anjos got his foot fixed and went back to work, and trained, So McGregor doesn't show, yeah, the predilection. Yeah, so we're gonna go through some of Dana's misses.
Yeah, well, I think we'll do that first, just so people know that Dana has a history of this. Obviously, there's been some ones recent, but let's start from kind of the beginning of what you remember.
Of what I remember. Okay, I would say the first one that was kind of, and the publicity they get back then was not the publicity they get now. So when I say it was big news, it was like, the fans that followed this sport were watching it, but that's his boxing match with Tito Ortiz, right? That was, I think, really one of the first traceable ones. Um, and back in that era, I think you could consider a failure for him and not a good look. Similar to what Jordan Revney, not similar in what Revney did to Eddie Alvarez in the processing of the transaction, but similar in that the promoter just has no way of looking good, and that was letting Randy Couture go. You know, Couture went off, fought for his ancillary rights. They gave him back his ancillary rights, which is a victory for Randy. He's one of the few that ever had it. And then he was able to go off to Hollywood. Now, Randy, he's done a lot of Hollywood movies and good for him. But if he had signed the original UFC contract, he would not have been allowed to do it, not without their permission. So he didn't want that, and he fought the contract, and he won. He's one of the few guys that did that. And we have his, I don't. I've seen a couple of movies he's in. I can't say I'm a big follower of Hollywood movies, but I know he's been in a number of movies. So there's two. Those are from the old. Those are pretty old days.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that's one where it's something where he promised something and didn't deliver. More like with Tito Ortiz and him boxing, which is something they
Okay.
made seem like it was going to be uh, and then didn't happen.
Okay,
Chandler
I see it.
McGregor didn't happen. That was something that was promised that didn't happen. What else can we think of that?
As far as delivering, right?
Promising and not delivering.
Promising and not delivering.
And then it just vanishes into the ether, like it never was mentioned to begin with.
Am I making it up, or was there some kind of like flirtations that around like Lesnar's 40th birthday that completely dropped off the face of the planet? I
I don't
feel
recall.
like I feel like there was some negotiations with Lesnar that didn't, which would be a big name not being delivered. Um, you give me one, Todd. Go ahead.
In history, I mean, I think the biggest, like you had mentioned, was Tito and him, but the of recent memory was, and one that had the same kind of, you know, I can't believe they're even discussing this kind of thing, was Zuckerberg versus Musk at the Coliseum. And that was
Okay.
something they were discussing nonstop. He even made shirts for it. Dana White was wearing shirts.
No, I
Zuckerberg
agree.
versus Musk. He was acting like it's really going to happen. These guys really want to do it. And then, poof, nothing.
Yeah, yeah.
They never came up with a date. They never came up with anything. It just, one day you just stopped talking about it.
That's you know that one. I sort of wonder if you know it wasn't something more orchestrated by Musk and Zuckerberg to look cool for whatever brief period of time they look cool doing that.
And I
Uh,
noticed we aren't seeing these pictures of Zuckerberg training anymore that we were seeing a lot.
no, and he's looking a lot like
We aren't seeing that on social media lately.
yeah, he's looking a lot more like he's gone like the hippie route, long hair and stuff. So yeah, so I think that one's unusual. If you want to talk about Dana, didn't he announce with like hugging like a sheik somewhere that he was in boxing, that they had a salary structure, that they were going to do all this stuff, and
Well,
sounds like they haven't delivered anything on that
Turkey
yet.
said that that's going to start in December, so that's what he's saying. Um, but Zuffa boxing was something they had promised for a long, 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 long time, and just like Zuckerberg and Musk, until it just came up recently, it just went. They didn't say no, we're canceling it. They just stopped talking about it completely. It just vanished into thin air. But now it's back, and Turkey did say that they're gonna proceed. I think it's going to be in December because he had some other obligations, contract wise,
Okay, okay, we'll
prior to that
see.
announcement. But yeah,
We'll see.
Zuffa boxing was something they had promised for years and years and years and never delivered.
Well, if they're going to do something in December, we're 6 months away. If they did it on the level of Tyson Fury and Ngannou, um, then they should sort of have the match promoting now, you know? Um, and that's part of the problem is that they may have talked and they may have this and that and the other thing, but it's they have no roster. It seems like unless there's something behind the scenes going on that nobody knows about, but it seems like they have no roster. They have really no capability of doing a really high level boxing show. Even and then the salary structure also was kind of awful. So how are they going to get people interested in that?
Well, I think
Um,
Canelo Crawford will get people interested in the possibilities.
yeah, you know, uh, Alvarez is always going to be um, controlled by other people.
Right, but I'm just saying by pulling that fight off. Although this is another thing. Now that we mention it, this is another. They promised it's going to be on Netflix. All of a sudden, no more. Off Netflix.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a pay-per-view now. They promised several things with that fight that aren't going to actually take place now. Um, Everything's kind of 180'd
yeah,
a little bit with that. So that's another thing.
good one, very good. Yeah, no, it's like yeah. So there are other. I thought we were going to have by now. Everybody would be wearing um slap fight picture, t-shirts, right? That we would all be convinced that this was the greatest sport, but that hasn't happened either. I guess you could say they still. I saw the other day where they had a video that had 128,000 views in 3 days, and yeah, uh, that's definitely more views than we get, right? To be honest. So it's not like I'm poo-pooing it, but that's barely monetizing. It's not worth doing.
Yeah,
So,
Power Slap is out of gas already, in my
yeah,
opinion. It's almost completely out of gas.
and the funny part is, and I don't know if it's the algorithm or what the deal is, but it actually looks like there's another, and it's not called Power Slap, but there's another entity and brand that's actually doing better. You know, so take it for what it's worth. I'm trying to get into seeing here. Is the Crawford Canelo match in any way connected to Sheik?
Yeah, he's the one who's putting up the money for it.
Okay, where is it going to be? In Las Vegas. Why would the Sheik be putting money up in Las Vegas and not have that fight in Saudi Arabia or wherever?
Well, I think, he's a fan of boxing. I think he wants to have his name on it. I think it's worth it for him, If they have to do it in Vegas, so be it. He wants to be the name in boxing, Turkey Al Sheikh. If someone else gets it, that's bad for him.
Yeah, but it really is a shallow sponsorship and association of his name because it doesn't build an organization or put anything there. It's like you might as well vulgarly pay to have his name put in the corner pads. Um,
I don't know. I think it's a huge fight.
yeah,
To me, it's like a momentum builder going into his project, especially if he promotes it in a way to where he could kind of tie his project into it, maybe advertise a little bit during the show.
what's his product?
Coming soon, Riyadh season, you know, Zuffa
Hmm.
boxing, whatever, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, it just is him throwing money into the pot. He wants his name associated, but he's co-promoting. He's going to be co-promoting with Canelo Productions and whoever is in control of Crawford at this point. Um, and with that said, it just yeah, it's not the same thing. At least in my eyes. I mean, that's kind of the way I look at it. Is that if he signed it, first of all, it doesn't look like Dana or the boxing promotion could have anything to do with him, probably because of the way Canelo and Crawford's contracts are. So, yeah, it does nothing for his organization. So, yeah, I would consider that they're still falling far short of the image you get when Zuf is coming to boxing, kind of rah rah. And it's been a long time. $1 billion offer to Anthony Joshua was floated out in the press at some point and things like that. So
So let's kind of get to White House. I want to give you a chance to come from the point of not
I
having.
don't get average names because Trump and the whole rigmarole there will get more eyes on this than just about anything.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a single Secret Service person that would want this to take place. It's going to be a
Oh yeah,
nightmare for them. You
horrible
know,
idea.
you know,
Horrible
I
idea.
doubt any of them are thrilled with the idea of having it.
No, you can
Which could be a problem, maybe.
I mean,
Um,
they've got the event. Uh, they want to do it on the White House lawn. Even Dana was saying that, the White House lawn is, I think, kind of supposed to be picturesque. I don't know if you want to look like, a Grateful Dead concert the next day, with
Grateful.
whatever mess you have, with 3,000 people on the lawn drinking, eating, having fun. Um, chairs, what kind of chairs, are even comfortable on the lawn, and et cetera, et cetera. So just start to think through that. And then so you say, okay, no audience or a very private audience, just, 300 people or something like that. That's fine. Like it's going to sell on pay-per-view. The interesting thing about the show is that, I think people that don't like the UFC at this point or against the UFC, that don't watch it because they don't support it, they don't like it. I think that they may actually get some of those people to watch this one.
Oh
And
yeah.
that's what the payoff is for both people. Is that for the first time in a long time, the people that are against you also going to be buying a ticket.
Yeah, perhaps. And you can kind of upset them too, which is always nice.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a lot of Donald's motivation. I don't think he's the guy that the politically correct. I don't want to make anyone angry at me or something is not his style, you know. And yeah, so maybe he just wants to do it for that reason. But like I said, at that point, it yeah, at that point, it's like, and who's going to be on the card? I hate to say it, but let's get the American talent is weak on the roster, so you can't have all foreigners fighting on the White House lawn. That looks bad.
Pico might be a good guy to have on there.
Yeah,
If they can get him a win this year, I think next fight. If it's
yeah,
in July, if it is in July, as they say, um, yeah, I think he'd be, he's kind of an all-American, you know.
yeah, and
He couldn't headline it, but he'd be a good guy to have on the card.
and that's it. Yeah, here's way, if they wanted to go with that, which would be a show where um you bring young talent, you bring up and comers, you this sort of stuff. Um, it would be interesting, but that kind of isn't the way they promote. They like a big, huge, um, name at the top or something like that. Since the old days, they feel that's how to promote. But in this case, you've got,
Gable Stevenson, he's been training.
yeah,
He's
I
gonna have
know,
a match with Craig Jones at this next CGI. I think that's so maybe you throw him in there with somebody who's not too dangerous.
yeah. Instead of John Jones, Gordon Ryan. Have him do an MMA debut. It's a little bit of a slap on one who never got anything done there, but you can bring in some excellent names. Even I know he just took a loss in the UFC in his debut, but if you fill the undercard up with young guys like Austin Bashi, who's still kind of a baby in the sport and has a lot of potential, the kid that beat him look good and is um on the younger end of the roster, right? So yeah, I think something maybe interesting could happen there if they stay away from their normal matchmaking style.
Yeah, but the main card's got to be memorable. So
Who?
no, I'm saying it's got to be something that people want to see, not just
Sean Strickland,
random,
Sean
not just random people.
Sean Strickland versus Colby Covington.
Yeah, you could. Well, Strickland, you could probably have him on, even though he's a bit of a goofball. You don't know what he's going to say, but
I think he'll be happy there.
yeah,
And yeah, and he just got suspended, I think, or something like that. He did something dumb, which I it doesn't surprise me.
you didn't
All
see
due
it. What happened?
think he rushed the ring and
Yeah,
punched
yeah,
another fighter, and
yeah,
I don't pay much attention to that because I think it's also publicity.
yeah.
So they get to talk about it. Who's suspending him? The boxing
I guess the
commissions.
commission. Yeah,
So we'll see. Okay.
because
Yeah, so
Tough Enough was in Nevada. I think Tough Enough is in Nevada, and
okay. So who else would you put on the card? Nick Diaz, Nate
um,
Diaz?
oh no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I like I said, if you can find some guys, Gable Stevenson, I think you could do. I think it's doable.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Maybe
just
even the guy that beat him, if you could somehow get him to do a one-off.
what
Because
do you main
Trump
event
loves
with?
that guy.
But
The
what do
guy
you
who
main
beat
event
Gable.
with?
Uh, that's the tough one. especially timing wise, because you got to think about who's fighting when here in the next, you know,
Right, right. You want to have active guys that are on the roster, not reward guys that are not active, right? So
maybe Holloway versus Topuria for BMF 155.
make them both sit a year.
No, no, Topuria's going to have another fight between now and then.
I guess Max could afford to sit a year. They put in another 5 rounder this weekend.
Yeah, he did.
The
He
guy's
did.
got an extraordinary number of 5 round fights, so
Yeah.
he could take a year off.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. Taporia is kind of young. In a year, I guess you could do win that one fight, which you might lose, right?
No, let him
Really fight.
defend his title once.
Okay.
He's chances are he'll probably win. I mean, he's that good. And then you have him maybe fight Holloway for the BMF because Topuria's got motivation now. He's got two belts, and he can fight for that one, which didn't win because it wasn't on the line the first time he fought Holloway. Um, he could actually win it this time, which I think would be appealing to him. Um, and you get an American, in the main event, Holloway, Hawaiian. I know people from Hawaii probably don't want to look at it that way, but you know what I mean, like American.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
but
So
who
dude,
else could you
he's
do? Who else could you do as a main event? Trying to think.
I think Strickland's actually the biggest name among Americans.
McGregor's
And
too much of a wild card, and it'd be too hard to find an opponent that he could actually beat. Um,
well, you did. I think even if you didn't care about it, you're going to put an American in against him. You just, I just see something that somebody in the government or the CIA might say you cannot present. And maybe this is just me in Fantasyland, but you cannot present fight show with 3 Americans in 12 fights.
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, you're right. You have to have some. That's why we're kicking around some American possibilities. So you could
So
have
let's.
Gable Stevenson. I think that's doable. I think he'd be ready to fight somebody by then. You know, Aaron
Hollywood.
Pico. I think Aaron
How
Pico, you give him one fight. If he wins explosively, which if he does win, he probably will win explosively. That's how Pico wins his fights. You put him on the card. Um, Main event, like you said, Holloway Topuria is one we could think of, although it's not. I'm trying to think
Yeah,
in my
yeah.
head of who else I could consider.
No, I think that's a solid fight. That Holloway's been carrying the weight there. Um, I don't think Taporia is a draw in the States, but like I said, for this car, I don't think you need a huge draw, and that could be what helps him, take it up a notch. Um, but yeah, no, I think you're better off with guys that have lost one fight or are undefeated that are young on the undercard, and that's what the main event was. What's this guy that you loved that just got beat up, the wrestler?
Which one?
Uh, red hair, 185 pounds. Name is escaping me at this moment.
You mean the one we talked about in PFL?
No, no, no. The in the UFC, he's the All-American from college. We're gonna have to cut here for a minute.
Yeah, I'm not sure he brought up American
But you
wrestler.
loved him. You loved him, yes.
Oh, Bo Nickel.
Yeah, yeah. Good. Well, he's got one loss, right?
Is he fighting at eight? Yeah, he is fighting at 185. You're right. He could be on the card, sure.
Yeah. So and
I
guys,
think you need to get him a win between now and then. But
yeah. If you're gonna wait a year, yeah, you can fight 1 or 2 times and get something going there.
yeah, you could have him
But
on
yeah,
there.
I to me, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Up and coming guys, especially fill it up with American guys because it's on the White House lawn, and you've got to have some presence for the flag, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, and guys with one loss or zero losses. That's what I think that the card calls for.
You could
The
do.
top,
There's some interesting possibilities based on what we've kicked around.
the highest rated American in the heavyweight division is Curtis Blades.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah,
and Lewis is down at 9, so that really kind of puts a damper on Aspinall.
I think you have
Um,
to have at least 2 title fights.
okay, let's see what we get here with yeah, I think this is a natural for Kayla Harrison. That could be what your main event is if they somehow get Amanda to
Nunez and
unretire.
Kayla. Yeah, Nunez and Kayla. That would be. Yeah.
And that would be the match that even I think Trump greeted Kayla and with her wrestling background and her association with representing the country. I think Kayla may actually be the best main event on the roster. Now that I'm thinking about it.
You need a grudge match on there, though. You got to have one beef, one grudge match. Covington
Uh,
versus somebody.
y-
Covington
y-
versus somebody that hates him, which there's a
yeah,
lot of people.
yeah, or we can if you have like with Harrison, I think that we've solved a pretty big problem. I think you can go with her
How about
and Mac.
O'Malley Sandhagen?
I don't like main eventing a show of that caliber with 135 pounders or even whatever
No, I'm
120 or
not talking main
130.
event. Maybe you got your Holloway Taporia, Harrison, Nunez, Sandhagen, O'Malley.
Yeah, if you've got, I'm okay with like one, like some foreigners on the card. Like you said a grudge match, and made me think of the arguments this weekend between um Chimaev and I want to say Paulo Filo, not Paulo Filo, Paulo
Paulo
Costa.
Costa. Yeah.
So um
Sandhagen and O'Malley don't like each other. That's why I brought that up. They haven't liked each
okay,
other for a very long time. Um,
that's good.
the
That's
fight has
good.
just
And
never happened.
I think the other fight's intriguing. I think you've got a guy like Sean Strickland that you could use. I think if you one half, you've got a guy like Justin Gaethje. I think that you could use Gaethje versus Taporia. Um,
Shemaev versus Strickland. They don't like each other either.
yeah, yeah, I'd be okay with that. Um, and yeah, right there you've got. It depends on if Chimaev does Chimaev have the title shot with Duplessis. So
Yeah, he
everybody
is.
thinks
They're gonna fight in Chicago. It's gonna be the 319
every
UFC
yeah,
3 next one.
everybody thinks Chimaev will win. So we'll see how that goes. But if he wins, that'll definitely put a damper on those plans. But I think I like Tuporia Gaethje. You know, um, you've got maybe Makachev and Holloway. Would that be interesting? You want to move Makachev up to 170 though, right?
No, he is moving up. It's a done deal.
Okay,
That
let's
fight is
see.
done. He's fighting for the 107-pound title. So
Okay,
that's
so let's
so
see
that's
here.
out.
Again, go through it. You've got Marab at 135. You've got Sean O'Malley is the number one contender, and you could put Sean on the card, even though and he could be on the main card. Obviously, he's not, you know, he's a star they've worked on, but he's not main event quality. You can't give him a title shot. And then after that, you've got Umar, Peter Yan, and now you've got Sandhagen. So you've got Sandhagen there. And other than that, David Figueroa, Song Yadong, Marlon Vera, and I'm not seeing many people representing the flag. Is Aljamain Sterling still viable? Arnold Allen is ranked ahead of him. And everybody else there, Volkanovski, Evloev. I guess Diego Lopez could qualify as an American. Um, but so yeah, I think this is kind of they don't what we've mentioned a few times is that the roster's starting to get taken over by Eastern Europeans, by hardworking people. The Brazilians have made a stand, but the Americans have faded, and there really aren't many Americans in any weight class.
There's not
Gaethje's
a
full,
single male American champion in the UFC right now. Zero.
yeah, yeah. That tells you a lot. And you've got the women. Um, in the women, almost Shevchenko. Wei Lee, um, and so Harrison is the only one.
Yep.
So yeah, they don't have a great roster for an American card, and that is probably the best reason why the card won't happen. You can't be
Yeah.
doing you can't be doing people people from other countries fighting for the titles on the White House lawn or fighting for whatever is on the White House lawn.
But
It
we just gave a
has
card. We just gave a decent 3 or 4 fights.
yeah yeah yeah. I think
You could
I
have
think
Gaethje Topuria or Holloway Topuria, either one. Gaethje Topuria for the actual title, or Holloway Topuria for BMF. Nunez versus Harrison. O'Malley versus Sandhagen, and then you can go down with, Pico, Nickel, some of these guys. There you go.
okay. All right. I think that you you could also
Gable, Stevenson, if you can sneak him on somehow.
one potential Bo Nickel. Yeah, there are guys. Um, one potential like little thing that you might see is I would do 9 fights. They've strayed to doing 13, 14 fight cards because they have a big roster, but I don't think you need to get 13, 14 fights and to have people standing around painfully for that event. I think you come out and you do it as efficiently as possible.
I agree. You don't need a prelims. You don't need any of that. Pay-per-view card, boom.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Invite one of if you wanted to. What about doing Makachev and Patty Pimblett? That could be your third title fight under the other two that you mentioned. And
Topuria Pimblett is uh,
yeah,
another
or
grudge
Gaethje
match that's
Pimblett
attractive.
or Gaethje Pimblett,
Hmm.
and that way you've got some American presence. There are guys like Michael Chandler worth it anymore. And I don't mean that I don't like the guy. I think the guy fought a lot of wars in Bellator, and even now in public, I like what he said about Ben Askren and what he's going through and stuff. And I appreciate him, but he's the number 13th ranked guy. He doesn't belong on this card.
Yeah,
Um, so yeah, yeah, there are a few decisions like that that will be tough for people to do. So you could do Max and Taporia, and then you could do if you wanted to get Patty killed, do Patty and Makachev. Just and I know that's two foreigners and kind of contrary to what I said, but I think you can sneak one or two
no,
in.
Patty's not big enough. He's in 55, so he's not going to be fighting Makachev. Topuria
Yeah,
Makachev, I think Topuria Pimblett might be better to do in Europe. I don't think you use that one on the White House card. You could do that at Wembley, like you said, somewhere like that
yeah,
potentially.
but you can't do that fight in Wembley just by itself. You need Aspinall. You need
Yeah, you could get
uh,
him. You don't need Aspinall on the White House card.
no, you don't. But
You don't.
that's why I think if you wanted to add a quality fight, I think you've got that potential there. Patty and Taporia, it's two foreigners, but
Yeah.
you put it third or fourth
Oh, don't get
on
me
the
wrong. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you from that standpoint. People are like, yeah, I want to see that
and
because of all the bad blood. People would want to see it for sure. Fourth
yeah,
fight,
like
like, but Taporia wouldn't want to be the fourth fight.
yeah,
He thinks
I
he's the
think
best fighter in the UFC right now.
that's okay. I think you got to consider that um this card's a kind of a privilege to be on. So
Yeah,
I don't think you come out and say no. I don't want. I want my card, my match higher on the card. So yeah, and again, like but for example, you can't. There's really practically nothing you could do at light heavyweight on this card. Me like Khalil Roundtree's ranked fourth, but is he a big name enough to be on a main card at the White House? I mean, I don't think so. Um,
I think it'll end up being much more of a dud than we are making card for. Like, remember the Sphere? They were talking like, "Oh, it's gonna be the greatest card of all time." I can't even remember who fought on the Sphere, besides Marab and O'Malley.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, it was a dud. It was a dud of a card, you know.
yep,
So
yep. And
we're
I
talking up
think,
this great card, but it probably won't be anything close to that.
yeah, no, I think we've already settled on nine fights, right? You got the young guys, which amounts to um Bo Nickel, Austin Bashi. Oh, we had a couple undefeated guys on that card, but what guys that have one loss or no losses on the undercard that don't have a big name recognition yet, and then the main events we talked about. You know, um, any mix of those would be good. I think Gaethje would be game to be on the card. I think you make Colby Covington sit. I don't think you need him. Um, so yeah,
People would watch
so,
to see him get beat up by somebody. You find the right person to beat him up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right. But yeah, no,
Maybe
I think
Masvidal, Covington. Finally.
that would be good.
Yeah, finally we settle this once and for all. Masvidal versus Covington.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Well, we both have a penchant to be a little stupid in public, though, and I think you do also kind of, like I said, the CIA, and I don't know if that's the right agency that guards the president, and or anything like that, but the people in charge of security for that event are going to want, no tank abbots on this card, no loose cannons, nobody who, I think Masvidal has been vocal politically that he would understand, but and Covington too.
Yeah.
But they kind of both sometimes act a little like they forget and they're a little dumb. So
Yeah, but they've been around Trump. They both have ties to Trump because they were doing stuff for him on the campaign trail, both of them. And I think fans would be like all into that.
yeah,
That'd be something out of left field, No one
yeah, I
thought
think
it was
that's a
gonna
good point.
happen. You bring it in from left field.
Yeah, you could even almost start 170-pound BMF champion, right? Do something stupid like that. But yeah, I think that Kayla Harrison gets the award for being the main event on that card if it's going to happen.
On the White House card?
Yeah, I would still top the
Hmm.
card with Kayla versus Amanda,
Okay. That's
even
all right.
though you got to have a title fight. Even though George and Colby is a bigger names, they're not going to put that in the main event spot. Um, at that point, yeah, with Taporia and who we putting Taporia in with maybe Gaethje. Yeah, that's a good fight. Um, but yeah, I would still main event with Kyla.
Yeah, that's fair. Nunez is all time great. So yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, you got to get Nunez back. You got to throw good money at her, and who knows? Sometimes when you've been away from the game for a little while, it really is hard to um, get motivated again for one more big one.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, yeah, maybe we will see her, maybe we won't. But yeah, money talks. So bring her in.
No, there's some other ones you want to touch on. I mean, we were going to talk a little bit about PFL. Johnny Eblen gets beat like a very similar to I would say Leon Edwards versus Usman, where he's dominated for about 4 rounds and almost the entire fifth, and then lands a shot that ends the fight. And this is very similar to that. Although I would say one of the rounds was competitive in this fight prior to that, but Eblen was way ahead, and all he had to do was get to the end, and he gets choked out unconscious with 10 seconds to go.
Yeah,
Kind of
but
a
it happens, and it's interesting, very compelling when it happens. I remember seeing Rico Rodriguez beat Couture similarly, like just late in the rounds. Rico was heavy, and Couture was keeping a very high pace and got tired in like round four, I think is where he lost it. But um, but yeah, Rico kind of came from behind and you know really wasn't the title material that Couture was, or who the company wanted there. I think nice guy, but uh, but yeah, that was a very disappointing loss for me. I remember that one. Um, and yeah, you want me to give credit to the PFL? I give credit to the PFL. Um, when they signed Ngannou, part of the signing and the brief like publicity they did told us that they were going to do PFL Africa, and that actually I think they floated the number 2027 is when they would do it, and I felt like that was never going to happen. And they have pulled off some events in Africa in um, South Africa this last weekend, and the fights are producing a moderate amount of excitement on the internet and stuff, but I still don't think they're getting the distribution um, that has all eyes in the MMA world watching them.
Right, but maybe you could talk about since they did pull this off, what do you think the benefit of doing it is?
Well, you do what you said you were going to do, which we kind of started poo-pooing Dana for not doing that. Well, here we can give the PFL credit for that. As much as we made fun of Don Davis, he did put a show in Africa. Um, Africa doesn't come without its trappings. You're not. I don't think you're going to have a very deep talent pool there. Not because of physical talent, but I think that because of training and the sport that it is going to be far behind some other areas. So you'll have maybe a few super athletes that come out. I'd like to see Rugrug in the UFC.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
that's what I'm saying. There's probably some of those guys out there.
yeah, and you can find them, but without some training in some of
Right.
the basics of this sport, I think that they'll get lost at the higher levels. So,
I got to give
that's
Chustry credit for that one though. He went out there and he found someone from this Senegalese type wrestling, and
yeah,
that guy turned out to be pretty dang good. He's a champion.
yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, it was good, and he was enjoyable and fun, and I like him. But like I said, I don't think in Africa the talent pool is going to be very deep. Um, and I don't know if it's common knowledge, but there have been deaths in MMA in South Africa, at least one. And those regulatory commissions there and stuff are another spot as well as a talent pool, but another spot where they're just going to be behind the American commissions and commissions in other areas that govern the sport. Um, so yeah, I think you can keep doing shows, but um, you also wonder how much can they get for tickets in South Africa? Is the economy doing okay? Are people going to spend big money, or were they, like how it used to happen in the 90s where was Don Davis at the hotel bar handing out comp tickets for, fighters go to every strip joint in town and give girls and guys free tickets so that they all come tomorrow. I mean, things like that used to happen when they were getting no promotion and stuff. Is that how they got tickets sold in South Africa, or did they sell out and make big money? No one tells you much of that, but
Right.
doing shows in all regions like that will get you through a budget real quick if you don't have it coming back in.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of interesting stuff going on these days.
But yeah, I know you like the return of Bjorn Rebney's format. You probably talked about it on another podcast, but I know you're a fan of the early Bellator work, and there's another good move. But um, yeah, and maybe bringing some of the old people back isn't a terrible idea. But um,
Yeah, hearing Jimmy
yeah,
Smith on the broadcast. Yeah,
there's no reason.
it's almost like bringing the whole squad together again. It's pretty cool.
There was no reason to eviscerate the Bellator name the way they did that.
Well,
You know,
I think PFL is more of a, the kind of name you would expect, like a league, a this, that championship. Bellator's
yeah,
kind of a
yeah. That's what
kind
made
of
Bellator
people are
unique,
probably like,
man. That
what is that? What is a
yeah,
belt?
it's a, we used to get the same thing with hook and shoot, but I like that name of being unique and not being an alphabet soup. And keep in mind with the PFL, I know this is delving into another world, but you have the PFL and Bellator, and you could have had them operate for years as like a Raw and SmackDown, where independents at the end of the year, that's an easier league. They're doing international leagues. Independents at the end of the year, there's a playoff of the top people.
Another thing I think they've done really good is make Jonathan Coachman, who was from WWE, is kind of like the Dana figure. I think he's doing good at the press conferences. He's much more likable than Dana. He's answering all the questions. He seems really into it, which Dana doesn't seem that way as much these days. He seems
Yeah,
really into what's going on, real excited to be doing it. I think it's got a good energy there too. I think there's another good move they made.
good, good. Yeah.
Rather
So
than
yeah,
having someone up there who doesn't know, like like you said, Don Davis isn't really big. He's not a guy who's a rah guy, I would say. You have him up there. It's not Jonathan Coachman's got a lot of energy because he's in the WWE. He was a performer in the WWE, and so yeah, I think he good energy coming from that.
yeah,
He's the one
yeah.
who's handling the press conferences and stuff. So
and the only thing is, and this is maybe not, I'm not a big purveyor of television or anything like that, but I see this. The PFL I watch is on YouTube. I don't see that they have major distribution somewhere else. Maybe I'm wrong.
well, they're on ESPN Plus, just like the UFC.
Okay, so they're on the okay, and then
They're
I
the
take it back.
other MMA program on ESPN for the
So
time being.
I don't know if ESPN Plus is available in my country, if I've just been missing it, but that may be my fault. But yeah,
Now, I don't
um,
know if the UFC leaves ESPN. Will ESPN sink more of their energy into PFL now that they don't have the UFC? Who knows?
so yeah, very interesting, very nice. So yeah, but yeah, I think it's like sometimes I like to take credit for so, some things I'm able to give credit to the PFL for making me wrong. I was wrong, so I admit it.
Yeah, good stuff.
So good, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I said, the PFL I guess has been around for a few years and stuff, but again, I just can't take it seriously when the season's over. If they are going to take a few months off and not have product that they're putting out, then I think that's one of the dividing lines. If they can surmount that, then we'll see. Because yeah, I think you know the UFC may be kind of too big for its britches, and people a lot of people don't like the product anymore as much, and would be looking for an option that was legit. I can't
Jemayev
believe I'm saying,
Duplessis, what do you think happens there?
I like Duplessis, and um, I hope Duplessis wins. I'm not. I think if Chimaev wins, I think it's another Russian champion and another problem for the UFC that they are not really handling. And by problem, I mean not only that they're, you know, from Russia or whatever, but I mean, you can't go over there to do a card. You're not really going to be able to do things of that nature. So it just becomes um limiting, and Chimaev, they've been fighting him in Abu Dhabi and stuff like that. I mean, can some of these guys even get into the States?
Yeah, and I think there's been some rumor that he may retire if he wins the title. Jemayev.
Maybe he's young enough, and I don't. He hasn't made enough money to retire. He'd be stupid on the level of
Apparently,
John.
there's been some pressure from Chechnya. I don't know what's going on, but
Okay, I mean, if there's some type of overall philosophy or something like that, then sure. But Chimaev doesn't listen to many people either. So
Yeah. He'll listen. He'll listen to Kadyrov, I'm sure.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting if they ask him to retire. There's a benefit to having a lot of champions from your country. Um, and Kadyrov has always been a fight fan, so
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know the request is coming from him or from some other influences.
Yeah. Well, you know, always great to have you back. Looking
Thank you.
forward to the next time. I know the fans have missed having Mystic Miguel here. And
Well, we'll see. We'll see if this White House card comes to fruition, so we can pull the Mystic card out again.
any message to the fans that have been waiting to see you back?
Thank you for the support. Thank you for liking it. I watched a lot of Todd's other outlets that he has, and Todd's the real star here. He's the guy that is pumping a lot of energy into this. Even as we said at the beginning that or that he's been around for a long time. We've been around for a while and stuff like that. He's still pumping it out with a lot of energy, and he's the guy who deserves a lot of the credit. So thanks for having me, Todd.
Yeah, it's always great to have you and people checking this out. We appreciate the support and more stuff coming.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Till next time.
Up, everybody? It's your boy Drew with High Fight IQ, and you are now watching the MMA Conspiracy Hour with my boys Todd Adkins and Miguel Iturrate. Miguel has been the matchmaker for over 200 shows worldwide and has worked with Hook and Shoot, Euphoria, Bodog, and ADCC. Make sure you subscribe to the Todd Adkins Show on YouTube. You can also find Miguel on his YouTube channel at MMA Collector 74. Don't forget to subscribe to High Fight IQ on all social media platforms. The House Call Sports on YouTube. The Fight Pit on YouTube. Now let's talk some fights, baby. Let's go.